This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joire.
Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joire, and today is Wednesday, May 9th, 2018. We're at Google I.O. It's day 2, it's the afternoon, and I have a cadre of amazing journalists around me. This is going to be the informal Google I.O. talk session. There's going to be a lot of background noise. I'm warning you right now. There's vehicles going by, people walking. There's music that's being tested. Exactly. And so I'm going to get you guys to all introduce yourselves. Maybe start with Jason. Hello.
Hey, I'm Jason Howell, all about Android. Miriam, you've been on my show many times. Thank you.
There we go.
I'm Andrew Martonik with Android Central. I've been on Miriam's podcast once before, early on, I believe.
That is correct. You rescued me once.
Yeah.
In a moment of dire need.
I'm David Imel. I've also been on Miriam's podcast once before in New York City in December.
I think you guys have all
or
been.
February or something. Yeah. I'm with Android Authority, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to say that.
And I'm Fionna Agomuoh. I just launched my new site, TechieSupreme.com, and I've also been on Miriam's podcast.
I really didn't mean to start.
It's awesome.
I just meant to say thank you for coming on my show. It's always nice.
I love being on your show, and you have been on my show once, and it was together with Sean.
Yes.
Of Engadget.
Yeah.
That was Sean Cooper, who is, I don't know if Sean still writes for Engadget, but I think occasionally he does. But Sean and I used to do the Engadget Mobile podcast together for a while, so
There's
it was
a
like
blast
a
from the
return to
past.
form.
Yeah.
So Google I.O. Day 2, not too much happened today. I think we're all wrapping up stories and content, but I kind of want to get a feel for what you all individually think. Fiona, you start.
Well, for the most part, I was just kind of interested in the keynote announcements. That's kind of my, I'm more consumer-facing than anything else. So even though I kind of popped in on all of the other things going on, the announcements kind of have been the most interesting thing to me. And for me, I'm writing a piece right now just because I feel like I'm the only one still following, what's Android P going to be called? So,
It's peppermint, so yeah. we can wrap it up.
No, but peppermint doesn't make sense. It's not a pastry.
Well, I mean,
It's
it's
tasty.
Whoa.
Okay.
Tasty trees.
Okay, look.
First debate, I think I agree. They said.
What if it's Android pastry, just generic?
How about pie?
Nah.
Okay,
too easy.
so-
How about
it's too
it's
simple.
peppermint? Or
Yeah, that's what I said.
I think
See,
pineapple.
popsicle seems like the logical
I have-
explanation because it's the shape of an Android already.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about popsicle, they could literally just make
That'd
it
be easy.
melting at the bottom, and then
Popsicle works.
it would work. But it's kind of hard to say.
My
What's
guess,
your
and
theory?
it's funny because it ties into Android Central.
Mm-hmm.
My main guess is Pop-Tart. And it started last year, right after Android Oreo was announced. I was on Twitter and I saw a tweet from Android Central saying, "Oh, what's Android P going to be called?" So I commented, "Pop-Tart or nothing." And then these guys jumped in on my comment. They're like, "Well, Pop-Tart's a dessert. It's not a tasty." I'm like, "No, it's a tasty treat. It doesn't have to be a dessert."
That's
Why
why
not?
I'm back there.
So I had this little back and forth with some people in the Android Central Twitter. So I've just kind of been rolling with this Pop-Tart or nothing all for the last year. I actually talked to Dave Berg. I told him if Android P is not Pop-Tart, you need to just scrap the whole OS and just go to Q. Just keep it rolling.
This year, though, they didn't have the any treats that are out.
Yeah.
They have.
This is
No,
all-
okay, they
all
actually
to it.
have. They have. I've been tracking them. So I went to
Yes, Fiona.
I went to the Women Tech Makers social that was on Monday before, and they had Pop-Tarts there.
Oh,
interesting.
They had freshly baked, kind of flaky Pop-Tarts, not like the actual branded Pop-Tart that everyone knows. So it's more
Knockoff
of
Pop-Tarts.
So they're pastries.
Knockoff tarts.
That's a good point. So they had Pop-Tarts there. Then yesterday they had pretzels out and about.
Ooh, pretzels. That kind of fits. I mean,
It's
that's
not really a treat,
See,
though, is the
pastry.
thing.
I'm broadening the pastry because pretzel works.
Today they had popcorn out.
I don't think anybody's talking
And
about
and so Michael, Josh, and I did a podcast last night, and from Gadget Match, and he suggested it might be a pineapple because
There's
of those
dried
treats
pineapples out
say what do they say on them? They say something about thinking, think outside the box or something. I mean, there's something written on there that kind of makes me like, But a pineapple is that? I guess it's a tasty treat.
I don't know. I was pretty.
That's a little too healthy for Android, in my opinion.
Maybe fruit something happening.
Pop-Tart or nothing.
But what makes you think it might be peppermint, David?
I just think that peppermint, like the way that you say it, like peppermint, Android peppermint, just seems
catchy.
Like it's like the enunciation is easy.
Yeah. It's fresh.
It's fresh. There you go.
You're not going to run into a nougat problem.
There's that. Like that's my main issue with what was it? The other one that was not peppermint. It's not Pop-Tart.
Profiteroles?
Yeah, maybe Pop-Tart. I don't know. Like peppermint is just such a satisfying, easy word to say. Like I guess
it is.
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
just like
but it's a light quality too. Yeah, I can totally see it.
They're easy to.
But
enunciate.
it's tougher in a headline. It's a long word.
Good point.
Oreo is nice.
Oreo is easy.
Doesn't
nice.
push your character count out that much in tweets.
Well, we have marshmallow.
Yeah,
That's really long.
That was
I think
long.
everyone referred that to
As M.
As M for a long
Yeah.
So peppermint will be P.
There you go. Just keep it.
Because.
Yeah.
But I like your idea. Yeah, that sounds fresh.
Like, I think, so Popsicle is the other, I think it's a logical explanation because they can literally just make the Android the same shape, but have him melting at the bottom. And that's a Popsicle.
And just put a face on it.
And put a face on it. Yeah, it's so easy, but Popsicle is just such an awkward word to say, and it's also a branded word.
Oh, yeah.
So they would have to go
Do you want to
through
do
the whole
brand?
thing.
Do you think they'll do a brand again? That's the question.
That's the
I
weird
guess
thing.
not.
The weird thing is, after Kit Kat, they said they were never going to do a partnership again for the name.
Until
they did with
Oreo was
Oreo.
like, yo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, money goes a long way.
Yeah.
So I'm
I can see Popsicle
I
working.
doubt that there's much money exchange other than some sort of lawyers making money out of
Branding
some sort of.
thing.
Well,
Yeah.
Lawyers
okay,
involvement here,
you know how they
but-
have like the SpongeBob popsicles? They could do that, but with Android. Think about the marketing opportunity.
Good, yeah.
They could have like the dead zebra androids that are all the different like.
I mean, I love the Kit Kat bars they had back
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have.
and I
couple.
still have
Yeah.
I still have my gingerbread man.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it hasn't rotten yet. The ants haven't gotten to it yet.
Oh,
it's still in
God.
its package.
Wow.
It
Cryogenically
lost a
frozen.
leg at one point. It was attacked by a
There
killer
are
baby.
There are people listening that are like, wait, what version of Android
They have
is that?
no
That was so
idea.
long
So
ago.
long ago, yeah.
We're old. We've been doing this way too long, all of us. David accepted.
Since gingerbread was a hot new thing.
Well, what is Android? 10 years old now?
Yeah,
That
it's
was
actually
just
10
happened.
years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than the naming, okay, tell me what you each thought. So, Fionna, you really think the naming was the thing you were really excited about, clearly.
Well, I still just follow it. I feel like it's died down from the heyday, but it's just kind of always been one of my favorite aspects.
I think it's
of
fun.
following it.
It's one of the things that makes Google so, what's the word?
Google.
Yeah. No, I mean, they have this kind of like fun, nerdy, dorky thing going, right? What about you, David? What caught your eye at Google I/O?
There were two things for me. It was two announcements. The first one was Google Photos is like my favorite app that Google makes, and I think that it's the most tangible source of machine learning for front-facing consumers to actually understand. Because when you say you can search someone's face, you can search a name of a person you're related to, you can search a place, an object, and it can automatically find it. That's the easiest way to explain that to people is that if you feed a machine tons of images, it'll eventually know that this is definitely a dog. So then you can search the dog. My mom still doesn't understand that concept, but I think that people are starting to get it finally. And so they added a bunch of new features to Google Photos. And I feel like while every single other Google product is going left, right, up and down all the time, Google Photos is the one that is on a trajectory that it just keeps going, getting better and better and better, and they have not made any radical changes to it. I don't think they need to. And so at the show here, they added a bunch of different features. They added the ability to colorize old like black and white photos, which is crazy because people do that for a living and get paid thousands of dollars to do
There
that
are
kind of thing.
entire companies
Oh,
that
yeah.
just do that.
And they spend like a month on each photo.
Yeah,
It's
no,
crazy.
pretty nuts.
So that's pretty, and like most people can't tell the difference, right? If their grandparents have old, I mean, it's a very, very niche feature, obviously, but it's cool. And then they have almost the opposite, where you can take a picture that's colored and it'll automatically detect the subject and black out the background. So it's kind of using that whole like portrait mode type subject thing, just kind of make it fun. And they just keep making it better and better. And I think it really feeds into their whole machine learning thing. And the other thing is the update to Google Maps, that the walking navigation.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Oh
is
my
really, really
gosh!
cool.
I walk around San Francisco every single day. It's like my hobby because I wake up at like 6:45 in the morning, and I just walk around the city. And if I'm going to a new place, navigation, it always says that I'm going the opposite direction that I'm going. Driving navigation is awesome. Walking navigation has been trash for like ever since.
Yeah.
I
it was
think
launched.
that what they described during the keynote happens to all of us.
Yeah.
But I am a little concerned. I mean, I think the AR thing is great. The VPS visual
It's gonna
positioning
destroy your
system is
back.
going to be awesome. But I'm a little worried about the little foxy thing creature. Like, all I could think of at the
Come
time
this
was
way, this way.
Clippy.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh
Maybe
no.
you'd like to turn
It's
left.
it's like Google is bringing Clippy back.
Yeah.
And again, we're dating ourselves. I'm sure there are listeners who are wearing diapers when Clippy was around, but Clippy was the Microsoft.
And they're better off than we are.
They're
'cause they
better
never
off because
existed.
they came to a world where smartphones already existed.
Yeah.
So, I agree. So, Andrew, what did you think? What was the
If
What
we're
was the
keeping
one
it
thing?
mobily,
mobily? I like that.
we're keeping it mobile, I guess would actually be proper grammar, sorry, is actually the fact that the Android P developer preview is not just for the Pixel, it's for
That is cool.
it's
Essential
for
phone.
7 different manufacturers
Yeah.
also, which is just
That is great.
it's a huge deal for nerds that maybe don't have a Pixel, or they have a Pixel and they don't want to ruin it by putting a beta version of software on it that's kind of broken, but they have another one of these phones. It's a huge deal, and the most important part is these manufacturers get early access to Android P even earlier than they would get it otherwise, and that isn't necessarily going to mean that they all get P out to their production devices sooner, but it can't hurt. It can't hurt that situation, which is awesome.
Not only that, it's kind of a vindication for Google itself in last year's big announcement of Project Treble,
Yeah.
and kind of
True,
a
yeah.
really great materialization of the power of all of that hard work, because that was a huge endeavor for,
Yeah, that's
for
a
their
huge
team
point.
to dive into. This is like an obvious, like a big example of it
This is
working.
why you do that.
This is exactly why they did this a year ago.
I mean,
That's
it'll
almost-
be interesting to see, just because a lot of the manufacturers that they work with, they put their own customization on their Android devices, but then it's getting like pure Android to begin with. So that
Right, they're willing to put just regular the beta version that looks the same across all the devices on there is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that they made that announcement, and we got some press releases from various companies, OnePlus, Oppo,
Xiaomi,
kind of like saying,
Essential.
"Hey, we did this. We're cool."
Yeah.
And I mean, it is cool because it can't just be Pixel. I was really surprised to see Essential included in that list,
Yeah.
actually.
Mhm.
I mean, I wasn't too. Nokia was the least surprising because they're the big proponent of Android One, and they are they've been pretty pure since day one.
Right.
But I'm actually surprised Moto is not on that list,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because their phones are pretty clean,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like making a big push right now with the G6 and
And they're doing Android One with the Moto X4.
yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other end of the spectrum, it's surprising that Xiaomi is on there because they're one of the most
I know,
customized.
but it's
Yeah.
because they have an Android One device.
Right.
Only one, I guess. Do they have more than one?
No.
I have
just
it.
that one.
I just can't even remember what it's called. A1.
Mi A1, yeah.
Xiaomi Mi A1 Android One, I think is the full name.
Wow.
Wow. How did I remember that?
I don't know.
Anyway,
I think like a lot of the companies that announced that they were going to add that extra, like, be able to do the beta were companies that were kind of like famous for pushing out updates really quick. Like Essential in particular.
And being enthusiast focused with
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, Essential in particular is like they push out updates so fast, always, and they're still updating their phone that was launched almost a year ago.
Right.
You know, like they're always doing that, and I think, and like I don't know, all the other companies too. Like Nokia, obviously, is like the biggest proponent of Android One of all time, and
Right.
I'm sure Andy Rubin, the connection to Andy Rubin, didn't hurt as far
Yeah.
as okay, we need some third party, OEMs to partner with us on this. Of course, they're going to reach out to the father of Android. And say, hey, you got a phone company, you want to do this?
Yeah, totally. So, Jason, what about you? What were the things that stood out?
Both of the things. So I'm going to name two things. One of them is so not important in the grand scheme of things, but I saw it today in the AR sandbox, and I thought it was really neat. Was the cloud anchors?
Oh yeah.
With the two different devices kind of synchronized with a single kind of augmented object in the same room, and being able to kind of play a game with somebody who's also on a device. We both see the same things anchored in the same place.
yeah.
I heard it on stage and I was like, okay, cool, I guess that's neat. But it was really cool playing with it.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I think that once we see developers get creative with that, I'm very curious to see where that leads. But that's not super important. Probably one of the other things that I thought has the potential to be a really big deal for a lot of different reasons is this idea of componentizing apps and splitting them apart on a per device basis, on a per feature basis. So they've kind of split it up so that they're only serving the pieces that really matter to a particular device or configuration or use case. It's all the way down to features. So a developer that's creating an app that has a free and then a subscription-based portion of the app can choose to only really have to deliver the pieces that make up the free version inside of it. And then once someone buys into it, here's the rest of the app that you get the full uncovered experience. Just gives, I think, developers a lot of capabilities.
And it keeps app download sizes and install sizes way down.
Which is great for all markets, not just
apps have gotten huge lately.
Yeah, they have.
And you won't have to download the free version and download the whatever it is in some cases.
Right, having them actually work
100%.
together makes sense.
Yeah. So I thought that opens up a lot of doors, and it really kind of points to Google's kind of greater efforts with Android right now, and just that we're talking about it, right? Simplifying the experience. And while that doesn't sound simple to split up apps and everything like that, I think the greater vision is that we don't want you to have to run your device with all these things that you don't actually need. Be it in the interface, be it in the apps that you're downloading. If you don't need that, why should you have it? I think that's a good trend.
I know. I'm used to be very minimal in my app install on my phones, but I'm finding that there's so much crud now simply because all these services that I use actually enough to have an app for are just, better with the app than the web or whatever. And
so many things are app only or the best experiences on the app.
And I'm at the point where now I have probably 100 apps on my phone and I'm not really sure I want them all. I wish there was a way to kind of prioritize and surface the apps you need when you need them automatically. Kind of like,
they've talked about that.
Didn't somebody do that? Yeah.
I mean, that's a big part of what they announced yesterday is this idea of artificial intelligence, AI, lovely buzzword, it's everywhere nowadays. But I mean, reaching into the experience to surface either in the app tray, the most recent, the actions, right? They talked about
the actions and the slices,
and actions, and bring those in based on your usage. Is it time of day? I'm not sure exactly what they're pulling from, but they seem to be using AI to analyze how you use your device, at what time, in what situations, to be able to surface these actions that are going to help you.
And what's the most likely next thing you're going to do, right? Sure.
I think my difficulty in anything along those lines is that I'm a creature of habit. When I want to launch an app, I will open up the app drawer or go to the place that I put it on the home screen and I will look for it. I will never open the app drawer and go, oh, there it is up at the top. My eyes just don't go automatically there and say, thank you for saving me the swipe. There it is.
Or on your Pixel, you're not using that bottom search bar to type and then launch apps.
Yeah, right.
You're you know where the app is, or it's already on your home screen or in a specific spot in the specific folder.
Quicker for me to just get there quickly.
You know, I was talking with someone today here in the press area about this. How, you know, we're conditioned by the kind of XY coordinate in the grid of our you know, app tray, and also the color, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't like if you ask me, what's the Gmail icon? It's red, right? Like what's the face? It's blue. Like I'm not necessarily going to be able to actually draw the icon for you, but I at least have an idea what the color is,
That's
and
true.
I can tell you probably roughly it's in the top right or top left quadrant of the app shade, right?
And that's why it's so valuable for apps to get onto that home screen and not just be hidden behind search or anything like that. They want that 1A position right in the bottom right corner where your thumb lands automatically. Like what apps end up in that bottom row is extremely valuable to companies.
Yeah, right.
They'll spend millions and millions and millions of dollars in advertising if they can to get in that one spot.
Sure.
Rather than, like Jason was saying, having this carousel of ever-changing apps down at the bottom when you swipe up.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. I mean, we're creatures of habit, right? Like, I'm going to let you know in a minute what was my number one and a more interesting thing. But this kind of ties in with gestures, so I want to talk about that because, we've all tried. Well, I haven't installed it yet, but I've tried it on everybody else's phone. The beta and the gestures is there, and it's interesting, but I feel like it's still
different.
It's really
not
bad.
good enough, not as good.
It's really bad.
As say on the iPhone 10. I hate to say that, but
Well, this is not. It's not even enabled by default on a developer version of the OS. So that's why I'm willing to hold
yeah,
a
I
little
think
bit of my
it'll.
judgment.
I think it'll improve, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not even sure I'm gonna give it a chance because I'm such a creature of habit.
Yeah, you should give it a chance.
And I will. But I'm just saying, like, it feels like, the biggest gripe I have is the swiping twice to get to the app tray. And again, it's because I'm so app tray centric.
Yeah.
Well, you don't really have to. It's a long swipe, and that takes you right to. But
You're
as with
usually just
anything,
doing the flick and just
yeah,
getting there. Yeah.
up and you're there. I mean, as with anything, we are creatures of habit. It's hard to reprogram our brains in order to kind of learn these new ways of interaction. I'm sure when it's released to the consumer, they're going to have some obvious onboarding scenario. There has to be, because there's some hidden pieces of it that confused me initially. Switching between two apps the way I used to by double tapping, multitasking.
Yeah.
That was not apparent that you just swipe over to the right briefly on that home button. But that's how you do it. And it just takes a little bit of time to relearn.
And
I do think it's rough though, right?
And I think the when you slide the pill to the left or the right.
Oh, you call it the pill too. Good.
Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, that's what I call it.
That's it.
Okay, but-
It's determined in this podcast forever for all journalists. It's called the pill.
Okay, my issue with this is that they want you to do, there's multiple actions to do the same thing, and some are just less effective than others. Like, if you swipe up from the top, then you can go to other apps, which is already a bad use of space, because
Correct.
that's way too much information being filled when you could, on the cards, you had 5 things that you could tap on, which would be amazing, and now it's filling up the whole screen.
It works okay for iOS.
Yeah, it works okay for iOS, but then if you do the pill swipe right thing, you can only go one at a time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And if you let go, it automatically fills it.
This is my biggest, that and the app tray are my biggest gripe, is that this is on the iPhone, it's so, so intuitive. You just
They're
go down
clearly
the bottom,
trying a few
and
different
it's
things
just
at once.
super
Yeah.
And
fast.
the app tray, to get to the app tray, you have to go all the way up with your thumb.
Yeah,
Which is
so yes, we can
I'll
do
tell
it
you
with
that
one,
that has been fixed already.
Oh, has it?
Yeah,
Has it?
I have
Oh, there's
seen
one.
a newer version that they fixed that behavior.
So how,
it doesn't work like that.
But how is it fixed?
Is it just if you swipe fast?
It's an understanding about that point at which it decides I want to go to multitasking versus I want to swipe way up to go to app drawer is much closer together.
It's
Yeah.
easier for it to detect that you were deliberately trying to get either the multitasking
Yes.
card view, or if you're swiping up more aggressively,
want
which
the
is
thing.
what I usually would do.
Yeah,
then that would bring
I
it
kind of feel like they should do what Apple did, where if you swipe slow and you stop, it's
Yeah.
multitasking.
Yeah.
And if you swipe faster, it's
Right.
So
and
so
the,
it's-
and the
it's like
distance
that,
shouldn't
yeah.
matter. But the distance shouldn't matter either.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like it should be more of a speed thing or deliberately slowing down and stopping for the multitasking. And then the swipe at the bottom, I think that it should, kind of figure it out that if you swipe from the edge, left or right, it should just ignore the back button.
Yeah.
Just start flipping through the apps like the
Yeah.
iPhone does. And maybe the trigger point is beyond the screen, so you
Yeah.
know you haven't tapped on the back button.
Yeah, I think that it would be an interesting use to just have the swipe right on the pill be just the switch to the previous app, or have a quick swipe left on the pill be the back button, and not have that thing where you can press and hold to the
Yeah.
right and have it go one at a time.
Yeah.
That seems really redundant.
Why is there a back button there at all? Why don't you just
Because
swipe to the
Android.
left?
Yeah.
I mean, why don't you just swipe to the left? Like,
Yeah.
I reviewed the Oppo R15. It copies the iPhone 10 to, like, a T.
Yeah.
It totally gets rid of the whole bottom thing, and it has but the gestures just make sense for Android. You
And
swipe,
Motorola has the same thing too.
okay, you swipe up from the bottom to go home, swipe up from the right to do multitasking, and swipe up from the left to do back.
I
And it
see.
just makes sense.
And
'cause that's how
have you
Android
guys had a
works.
chance to try the OnePlus gestures on the 5T beta or whatever?
I have not, no.
And it's interesting because I
When
think
is
they
this
have
podcast released?
they have swipe from the bottom middle for recent apps.
Yeah.
And then they have swipe from the left or right bottom for back. And then I can't remember how they're doing the home. I guess it's a one swipe. I can't remember how they do the multi. I think it's like the iPhone. You stop halfway in.
So this is the interesting
But I
thing.
can't remember. It's on the 5T. If you have the
Yeah.
beta installed on the 5T,
All of these different manufacturers have different swiping
And
paradigms that they've come up with.
Yes, like we need to.
Yeah.
You know,
So this is at least it has flaws right now. It's definitely evolving beyond what Android P beta has right now. But it's Google putting its foot down and saying, this is what the default is. I do not at all doubt that all these manufacturers will continue to do stupid other gesture stuff, because that's just what
because
they do.
Android.
Yeah, exactly. And there will still be some random phones that have capacitive keys still and like crap like that. But this is at least the default version, so this is, what they're saying you can do. Whether it's
Yeah.
enabled by default or available or what.
No, I do feel that the thing that makes Google strong and the Pixel strong and the Nexus in the past strong was that Google kind of sets the rules and they absorb other people's features and unify them into a standard, as it were,
Or separate
right?
apps.
And then people, and it's good. It's good. I think that's good. So the thing that I got excited about, and it's very nerdy because I used to be a developer, is Linux on Chrome OS.
Oh yeah.
Just because now you don't have to so here's the thing, we all love our Chromebooks, right? I don't know if all of you use them. I know
Not as regularly.
not
but I
regularly
do.
but we all do, right? You certainly are. You're using Jason's got the Pixel Book right here. I don't know if do you use a Chromebooks?
I had a review model for a while, but I've since sent it back.
Was
I
it
only
recently
had-
or was it like a while ago?
A little bit ago.
I've been wanting to use a Pixelbook forever,
Yeah,
but
it's sweet.
I've seen the most Pixelbooks here than I have ever.
Yeah, no,
We need a pickle book.
And so Andrew's like me, we're occasional users. I'm actually more than occasional now. I'd say about half my time on a laptop is on the Pixel or Pixelbook. And the reason for that is most of the stuff I do, I just don't really need more than a Pixel book for, or a Pixel,
sure.
or even a cheap Acer or Asus or whatever Chromebook. But the thing that's got me excited is that if you're a developer right now, put yourself in the shoes of an Android developer. You're an Android developer, you want to work on the go, you have to buy a MacBook or a Windows box to develop. And so the MacBook is a pretty solid platform, but it's still a pretty heavy platform, right? There's a lot of stuff in there you might not want. And then the Windows is, even though Windows 10 is much better than ever was, it's still, run a Windows 10 update and it's a hassle, right? I mean, it still takes a long time. So, Chrome is so easy to update and maintain that it's very appealing. And as Google's OS of choice, it's kind of crazy that you haven't been able to use it to develop Android apps as a developer.
Right. Yeah.
Because you have to buy a Mac to use
Yeah.
to develop iOS apps. Apple makes no excuses about it, and it's their prerogative, rightfully so. So I think that this is going to be a game changer for a lot of folks.
I think
Because
so too.
for me right now, I know I could record this on a Zoom flash-based recorder,
Yeah.
or like a camera even with a shotgun mic or Omni mic, or there's lots of options I have. But just from familiarity, I have a mic plugged into my MacBook, and my MacBook has free audio editing software, Audacity. And guess what? I can't do this on a Pixelbook.
Yeah.
And yet now, with Linux support, there's a Linux built of Audacity.
Yeah.
I can just compile it and done,
Yeah.
and I've got audio recording on my Pixelbook,
You can-
natively, locally.
You can deploy Android apps through your Pixelbook now too.
I know.
Right.
It's
Because
really
that's
awesome.
like crazy. That's like
so
awesome.
you can build and test
And
on the
test,
same device.
exactly. You
And
don't
it's
even
not
have
an
to-
emulator.
Yeah.
It's running on the
Yeah.
on the Pixel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's so cool.
And so that's to me what's got me excited, because I'm not really sure it's people going to write Linux apps on a Pixelbook that much. You know,
This isn't just going to cause an explosion of
No.
development of Linux apps.
No.
But at the same time, it means that we now have a vehicle for carrying only a single laptop in many instances, and I'm going to very much experiment with getting Audacity or something similar open source working on my Pixelbook. Because if I got that, honestly, the only thing I can't do on my Pixelbook right now, because you can do it in the cloud, but it's really not well suited for that, is video editing.
Yeah.
Adobe.
But
yeah.
photo editing is actually okay on a Pixelbook, because you get Google Photos on Android,
Yeah.
and you use it in tablet mode. It's actually manageable, and there's all kinds of cloud-based, photo editors. I don't know, like what, if you look at your use cases, Fiona, and with your laptop, do you need more than a Chromebook? Like, do you need more than the web, or are you actually using a lot of like native apps that require local storage and local processing?
Probably not.
So you
I mean,
could
just
probably
kinda-
live with
again,
just a
like
Chromebook.
even like I have a MacBook, and the majority of the things that I use are
You're on the
are-
web, right?
Yeah, like web, but even just kind of like they're Google things. I'm going on Google Photos. I'm going on Gmail. I'm going, a lot of this stuff is just like browser and connecting to Google.
Right.
The reason I'm asking is because I think you don't do photos and videos really like on your laptop, right? You write
You mean,
stories,
like,
you do
editing
scripts and
stuff
you do
now.
stuff like
I mean,
that, right?
but it is the reason that I
That's why you
still have a MacBook Pro, is because when I
Every
do
now and
need
then,
to, every
yeah.
now and then, it's just easier for me to do it in
Yeah.
Photoshop
So-
on a MacBook Pro.
So for Jason, you pretty much live on a Chromebook, and I know Andrew and David and I still have some audio or video or photo requirements that
Yeah, I have
require
a MacBook Pro
having
on
a
my lap right now,
MacBook.
so
You're on Mac? No.
Surface Book.
Surface Book, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Adobe.
we've got everybody here. We got Windows 10, we got Chrome OS, we've got High Sierra or Sierra. I don't know. I got High Sierra.
Sierra, yeah, I'm staying
Only
behind
one
on
version
purpose. Yeah.
I haven't really had any problems upgrading to High Sierra. I just kind of tried it on a whim, and so far so good. It's been a month or two, so I think I'm sticking.
Delivering this podcast right now.
It's delivering it
Yeah.
if the computer doesn't melt.
Yeah.
in this booth right now. As you know, this is a MacBook, and it doesn't have cooling other than passive cooling, and I bet you the bottom of it is really
Not a lot of passive cooling happening in this,
put your hand here,
this
Jason.
box right now.
This is toasty.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
that's nice and warm.
So, but it will throttle down. It's only recording audio. It's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so I want to kind of talk. There's a few other topics that have come up. The Google Lens stuff I thought was really kind of interesting. The ability to copy paste text directly from a photo. That it basically does OCR on the fly, and you can. What's the slogan they use? Copy items from the real world into the virtual world directly, basically.
Yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah.
seeing that demo at the
Well,
keynote? That was cool.
Yeah, well, and they're showing a bunch of that off at the AR, VR sandbox. If you go in there, there's a whole wall that is devoted to Lens. It's got a newer version of Lens. It's got the lens that basically we saw in the keynote, so it's different from a phone. It's kind of side by side. And you can point, it's doing its always looking thing, which is definitely a big difference from the lens that we have right now.
Yeah.
The lens that we have right now, you have to
Analyze.
specifically tap on a thing and say, analyze this.
Right.
On the new version, it's like you open it and there's little sprinkly dots everywhere as you're moving it around, and it's constantly pulling that information in
And you
and
have-
saying, hey, this blouse looks like this
Yeah.
blouse. You
Yeah.
want to buy this one?
Yeah.
And you have to think that that's been informed by all the development they've been doing in Google Photos, having even more,
Oh, yeah.
all of this visual information to just crunch on
Yep.
billions and billions of photos, and all of the things that you were talking about before, David, like the Google Photos just gets better and better and
Yeah.
figures out how to do all this stuff automatically, you have to think that's also informing Lens
Right.
and identifying all of these different things where you can just type into the search field on Google Photos, dog or whatever is the usual one, and it can just knows what all the dogs are.
Right.
But when you apply that to the world
Machine learning
of things that you can
everything.
plug your
Yeah.
camera at, it has to be a way bigger
Yeah.
data set.
I mean, what was it last year that they showed off that you could like point it at a QR code on your router and it would automatically log
I've
in?
never gotten that to
Yeah.
work.
It doesn't. It still doesn't work. It was a
Yeah.
year ago that they
It worked
announced
for me
it.
when I was
Oh.
at my mom's place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, my
That's one of
Facebook.
those data set things, though. It has to get a
Enough
certain number
users.
of photos or scans of a million different kinds of router
Yeah.
codes.
Or it's
right?
like 99% sure
Yeah.
it'll actually do
Right.
it. Yeah.
Speaking of that, they showed PDF, not PDF scanning, but more like you take a photo of a document and it turns it into an editable like text
Actual flat
OCR
PDF.
That's awesome.
and geometrically adjusted and everything.
Yeah.
That I think is
Yeah, they
really
showed
cool.
taking it at an angle like something's flat on a table, and you take it at this awkward angle, and it just goes.
Whoop.
It makes it flat.
And not only that, you can copy paste text and everything.
Well, yeah, that seems like a big
Nice.
difference. I mean, I do that all the time in Drive. There's a scan
Yeah.
feature in Drive.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
do that all the time for scanning in documents, and you can do it at an angle and everything like that there. But being able to then
Yeah.
go in
Yeah.
and like
And
manipulate the text, that's
make it a
just- that's
fillable form.
Yeah.
kinda
And then
magical.
you can sign right on your phone. Like when I bought my house, I signed on my phone. It's
Wow.
kind of magical to think
Yeah.
that I didn't have to sign a piece of paper.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
I was on I will always remember this. It was a Note 5.
Yeah.
So I used the actual
Yeah.
S Pen to do it because I figured that would be it's a house. It
Yeah.
needs to be a
It feels more
proper-
official when you
Not like a big
Yeah.
fat dab of a blob on
Yeah.
the thing. So
So
yes,
cool.
I know, right?
So my dad is a contractor, and he used to. It was way back in the day. He was like, "Oh, my phone's going bad. What phone do I get?" And I was like, "Well, you should get a Note 5 because he like wanted to be able to take credit card payments because he does all these contracts and all these things." And so I got him a Note 5 and a Square reader, and then he was
Yeah.
able to accept payments from people right on the spot, right as he laid their floors.
Game changer.
It was crazy, yeah. No, he was just so he still has that Note 5 now. it's getting a little weak at this point.
It's time to give him a Note 8.
I know, I need some Note 8,
Yeah. Don't give him Note 7 though. I don't know. Some of us have kept theirs, right? I don't have mine.
I think Russell
I'm
over on my team still has his.
I'm
somewhere.
pretty sure. Like I know that Richard Lai has one. I think. I mean, there's a few people I know who have one. Living
Museum
life
pieces.
dangerously.
They won't.
Literally.
Probably won't. Yeah, they probably won't care if you take it on a plane anymore.
Yeah, you're probably right.
They just don't check anymore.
I mean, I don't know. It's a gamble. There was definitely some issues there. But Samsung came back and look at them now.
Yeah.
It's like it never happened.
the most boring phone of all
So-
time.
I mean, I feel like everyone is
Yes,
still
yes,
trying
no.
to throw out jokes, but I'm
I
like,
know.
okay, just let it go at
The
this
fact that I
point.
even brought it up today is terrible. Like,
Great,
I think
here we are
Samsung
again.
PR is like never talking about it.
Throwback.
No, but look, I did see nice things about the Note 5.
That's true.
But speaking of which, we were talking about features that were introduced by other manufacturers and like, end up getting rolled into Google. That happens quite a bit. Like the pen input is a good example, right? Samsung really brought that to the table with the Notes. And then eventually now any phone can support pen if the hardware is there.
Yeah.
What other features? I think there are some features like that. Like gestures is a good example that others started and is rolling in. Is there anything else that stuck out with Android P?
Flux. Oh, it's not with P, but like
Well,
just
with
with
anything.
Google ingesting other things like Flux. Basically, like there's a whole thing where they got put on. If you guys don't know what Flux is, it's like it turns your screen yellowish and reduces the blue light channels
right.
when you're trying to go to sleep. And it got put on the Apple App Store, and they removed it from the App Store like a week after they put it on, and then immediately added night mode to the iPhone.
Right.
But and then it was on the Android market for a long time. Well, not Android market, the Play Store for a long time, and then now it's just part of the Pixel. But it's still
Right.
Pixel exclusive for some reason.
Interesting.
Even though I'm pretty sure a lot of manufacturers have it at this
Yeah,
point.
they all do something
Yeah.
similar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that you generally find out at I/O. What other features that Google Android has absorbed from other manufacturers,
Yeah.
and for the better, because then anybody can benefit.
Yeah.
Anything else that stood out for you folks? There's got to be more.
Well, there
I'm
was
looking
the
for
stuff
notes.
about the Google Home and the conversation.
Oh my God!
we
Google
just-
Lens.
Oh,
We
yeah,
haven't
we
talked
gotta
about
talk
Google Lens.
about that.
Thank you, Fiona, for being on top of it. So I thought that was amazing, but I know they picked 2 use cases
Out of, like,
out of like
5,000.
probably 5 million that were
Yeah,
terrible.
Yeah.
And I saw a really good story on The Verge about this today on how there's some really serious ethical issues around.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Right, because it's causing even a further divide between the haves and have-nots in the sense that if you have a lot of money, you're more likely to use these things, and then you're going to let people kind of do this for you. And the people at the other end are generally people that are not quite as well off, and they have to deal with whatever BS comes their way. I mean, they already do, but
all these automated systems.
but now you can detach yourself, right, as a well-off person, not having to deal
I
with
don't
the
have to
riffraff.
talk to people.
Google Assistant.
You deal with
Sign me
yeah.
up for all
And I
this.
feel that's kind of, I think there's an ethical responsibility, and obviously, we've seen Facebook struggles with that. And I'm hoping Google is aware of that. The fact that they didn't mention, any of it is concerning me a bit. The technology is amazing. As a nerd, I'm totally digging it. I think it's really cool. I felt that the second conversation was a little awkward, though, mostly because of the human in the conversation. But
And that was kind of so the second one was trying to show how the AI could think on its feet a little
Yeah.
bit when things weren't
When-
available.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And the person on the other end, like
Didn't
it was like
understand
English was their
coding.
second language, and so it was kind of the implication, and like, oh, they didn't understand, and no, that reservation's not available, and that kind of stuff.
Oh, Wednesday? You wanted Wednesday? Like, yeah.
So that yes, they're going to cherry pick the ones that show how good the AI does, not the ones where it calls and it just completely derps out and then hangs up or whatever, and then calls back automatically because it's an AI and it's just going to keep trying. I don't know how they actually roll this out to the world or to the US or anything and don't get a massive backlash from small businesses that are like, we just got flooded with 1 million automated robocalls.
they're going to need to be disclosed that it's an AI. I
Right.
think that's
It has to say,
that is the ethical thing to do.
Hi,
And-
I'm a robot, and
Yeah.
I'm calling you to make it.
Well, and you know how that goes? Hi, I'm a robot.
Yeah, true.
I mean, the second anybody knows there's a robot on the other side.
It depends on the added value to the business. If the
Well,
business,
you'll never get that far if you say, hi, I'm a robot.
Yeah.
It doesn't
I mean, I
matter.
do that even when I
But
get
maybe
like,
they
I
can-
make
yeah.
a call. I'm like
Yeah.
operator 00000.
maybe it can be codified, like saying, "I'm calling on behalf of,"
Sure,
or like some kind of like.
Right.
Because you also have there are actual legal issues in states like California that's a two-party recording state,
Right.
where this call is technically being recorded because it's being made by a robot and they're recording the information because then it has to come back to the Google Assistant and give you the information that it completed or did not complete the reservation. Like, there are legal problems with making automated robocalls to people and recording them.
Yeah.
That obviously Google didn't address that on stage. That's not very interesting. But they have to technically and legally address that.
And adding all those ums and
Yeah.
pauses to try to sound more real, and it's just like
I mean, I admire again the technology behind it, but I have a concern, and I feel like again it's very pie in the sky, Silicon Valley. I think that with all the issues we've seen come out of technology being so widespread, especially with social media, that a company like Google would have somebody in this whole, like, whether legal, whether HR, PR, whatever, come up and say, hey guys, before we show this at I/O, would you think that maybe we should kind of like have some awareness of what we're doing here?
yeah.
And I feel that that's an area where they kind of missed it, right? They missed the boat.
It
This
was
isn't the first
the
time.
obvious big moment from the keynote, right? It was the Sergey jumping out of an airplane, parachuting.
Yeah.
That it was
A little bit of
basically
tone
that.
deafness.
It was meant to get people talking and to show just how much prowess Google has when it comes to AI and synthesis of voice, and which was another thing that really impressed me. And I don't know, I'm an audio nerd, so I loved it. But the example that they showed of the YouTube video
Oh,
of the two
yeah.
people talking,
And they could
and how it was
discern.
able to
Yeah.
pull out their individual
That
audios
was awesome.
to
That
do
was
separate transcription.
really
Just that blew me away.
Yeah.
That stuff
For a number
is
of reasons. I
right.
love
That
that
stuff
stuff.
is a lot of the same technology, but it's all feel good. It's like all
Yeah.
upside.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody is feeling like they're the AI overlords are coming because they're able to close caption two people yelling at each
Yeah.
other. But they do feel that when you have the robocall thing.
Yep.
Even though it's
Absolutely.
a lot of the same technology.
Yeah. So what did you think, Fiona? Like, what is your perspective on this whole duplex madness?
Are you going to have Google Assistant call and make reservations for you?
You know what? I don't know. For me, I like doing things like that myself. I just, just kind of, again, just nerding out on things like that. I'm the person that I'm like coming from an appointment, and I'm like on Open Table walking to making a reservation while I'm walking to the place. So, like, that's.
I'll do it on Open Table. If I have to call, I'm like, do I really want to go to that restaurant? I don't want to make a phone call.
Right, but I mean it's
Well,
interesting
that's what
when you
I'm
think
thinking.
of
I
it.
just
from that
feel like
perspective.
who really is calling, unless it's kind of like an absolute requirement.
I'm not. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
there are like places where you kind of have that's their protocol. There is no website, or they're not connected to Open Table. So if you want to make a reservation, those still exist. But I feel like there's more places than not that if you need to make a reservation, you can do it online.
I almost feel like the best use for this in my life would not be talking to another human, but would be managing the phone trees of anything to get me to talking to a human. If I could have Assistant do the phone tree stuff,
Yeah.
where you have to wait 20 minutes
It's AI for that
and
instead.
maneuver a tree to get to the right place,
and then these
cool.
Yeah.
Right? Robots talking
Yeah.
to robots, get me there, and the second someone picks up, my Google Home wakes up
Yeah.
and says, hello, blah, blah, blah. Oh, hey, how's it going?
He
That would
recognizes
be
the
awesome.
human voice like instantly, and then puts you on the line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, that's like Gmail surfacing the unsubscribe link in an email.
Yeah.
I want that
Right,
part.
yes.
I don't want Gmail automatically replying
Right,
to
yes.
emails and just
Exactly.
sending them without checking with you.
Exactly.
No, I think that's totally true, and I feel like I don't know. I just feel it's going to be also interesting once an assistant calls an assistant.
That's what I'm thinking about too. Like,
And
love that.
I think that me and Michael Josh were joking about that last night too. And like in my nerdy mind, I imagine them starting out conversationally, and there's like maybe signal in it that tells them that
Yeah.
they're, and then all of a sudden they start like they don't hear the motor, like you hear.
They're like, why are we messing around with this English? Why don't we just jump to the middle?
And the conversation ends in 3 seconds.
Yeah, and exactly.
It's
The
already
conversation ends
communicated
after
the
3
information.
seconds and they're done.
Yeah, a bunch
And
of
you're
high
like,
frequency
what
tones go back and
happens?
forth.
Yeah, done. Exactly. So that's totally, somebody needs to do video of that, a video spoof of that. Well, why don't we do the outros, because we've got like 47 minutes of content. So
Okay, David Imel, and you can find me on Twitter at Durvid Imel, which is DURVIDIMEL. Someone else took my handle, and they closed his account for impersonating me, but did not give me the handle. So there's that.
okay,
You can find me on the Twitter at Andrew Martonik. That's MARTONIK. It's a long handle, but I don't want to shorten it up. That's what I've been from the start, all right? And at Android Central, of course. We do our own podcast. Anywhere good podcasts are found, you'll find the Android Central podcast too, and all the good hot takes about gestures and AI.
Jason, people can find you on all about Android, but tell them more.
Twit.tv/AAA is where you
Yeah.
find all about Android. I'm on Twitter at Jason Howell, which makes a lot of sense because that's my name.
Fiona, go ahead.
well, my Twitter is at Techie Supreme. I also have Instagram at Techie Supreme, and the website is techiesupreme.com.
Awesome, fantastic.
Nice.
You guys know where to find me. I'm Tankgirl on Twitter. That's TNKGRL, like the comic book character without the vowels. Also, my YouTube channel is youtube.com/MiriamJoir. My name's spelled out Miriam with a Y. The podcast is mobiletechpodcast.com. Please subscribe. Tell your friends. We're on iTunes. We're on Pocket Casts. We're everywhere. If you can't find Mobile Tech Podcast, just Google Tankgirl. My handle TNKGRL. You'll find it. And I need to, before you guys all go, quickly pimp my sponsor. Audible is my sponsor, Audible.com. You want some audiobooks? You want to listen to some cool books while you're driving, traveling? For me, it's like I don't have time to read physical books. I love physical books, but
You got stuff to do.
I end up listening to them a lot because of, whatever it is, travel, commute, and Audible has really been there for me. Any of you use it?
Yeah, I actually just started using it, and I was listening to a podcast on the plane coming here, so I'm getting into it.
Yes,
There you
plane
go.
rides also good use.
Yeah,
or doing chores around the house, like doing laundry and vacuuming or
right.
whatever. Like, listen to something after you're done listening to this podcast. Then you move on to your audio.
That's right. So if you want to support the podcast, please go to audibletrial.com/mobiletech. That's audibletrial.com/mobiletech. And click on that link and join Audible if you're not already using it, and that'll support the podcast. Thanks everybody for being on the show. It was really a pleasure.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks
Yeah, thank
again, and we'll catch everybody next week. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.